You're listening to an AINC original podcast. We believe you don't have to do life without a compass. Let us be your guide on this amazing journey. Welcome to Navigating Life with Vision Loss.
Hello, you're listening to Navigating Life with Vision Loss. I'm your host, Kim Wardlow. We are finishing up our month of August talking about leisure and recreation, and we focused a lot this month on outdoor activities. And we're finishing up with beep ball. You know, we have lots of folks that are baseball players, softball players, all those things. And so this is a twist on that with an adaptation for folks that are blind or have vision loss. And our guest today is Mike Curtis, and he is actually with Mind's Eye, which is a similar organization to Audio Information Network, in that we both read newspapers, magazines, have folks that come in and read those things for folks that need alternatives to print. And there's quite a few of us across the country, but all of us have other types of things that we do. And one of the really big programs at Mind's Eye is Beep Ball. And so Mike is here to tell us about that. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Thank you, Kim. Thanks for having me. Mind's Eye, we're a similar organization to you guys over there. We started in 1973, so we actually just celebrated our 50th year being on the airwaves here in St. Louis, Missouri, which we're located in Belleville, Illinois, so most people aren't familiar with Belleville, Illinois, but it's right across the river from St. Louis, Missouri, and we serve most of the St. Louis metropolitan area, and then as well as Springfield, Illinois area, as well as far as the reading services go. But being in, I shouldn't say business, but serving community for 50 years, we did that a long time, and then we use things like Beat Baseball as a supplement. So we started off with Beat Baseball as a once-a-year tournament, I believe in 2006. And then we just use that as a fundraiser to supplement the broadcast side of things. As Mind's Eye kind of grew in the community and wanted to do more things for the community, 2016 was kind of a heavier tipping point for us. We started doing audio description, both live and recorded in the St. Louis area, and as well as doubling our efforts for Beat Baseball. We grew to 2 tournaments per year, and then we also started doing demonstrations for schools, elementary schools, colleges, events, organizations around St. Louis, just to spread awareness about the game of Beat Baseball. And then we amplified that even more on the athletic side of things in 2020, which was a bad year to kind of start it, but that's just happenstance. We started the Gateway Archers, which is our nationally competing beat baseball team with the National Beat Baseball Association. So that was our first year joining a team. We had 8 visually impaired players, and I believe 6 sighted volunteers. The first World Series that year, which is the week-long competition that the National Beat Baseball Association puts on, was canceled, but there was a tournament held in Indianapolis, Indiana. So we were able to compete in late summer of 2020, but our first official year in the league was 2021. And then within that, the Archers have kind of, just from a marketing standpoint and awareness standpoint, done a lot for the league. So much so, our organization, Mind's Eye, was selected to host with Lighthouse for the Blind St. Louis, the Beat Baseball World Series in St. Louis in 2024 and 2025. So our organizations will be putting that spectacle on, which is a real honor, and we were super happy to get it 2 years in a row. So that's Beat Baseball is going to be much bigger here in St. Louis than it already is now.
That's great. I didn't realize you had the World Series for the next 2 years. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be an undertaking and a lot of work, but that's an exciting event to host.
Yeah, very much so. So to prepare ourselves a little bit, this past July, we hosted a regional tournament, which are smaller tournaments. The World Series is usually This year was 19 teams, but it can range up to 22, 24 teams. And 24 is what we're shooting for to get. Again, that'll take the whole nation to get involved and bring those teams to St. Louis. But we held an 8-team tournament to kind of iron out some of the creases to prepare ourselves, and that went really well. We saw some holes in planning an event like that, and we were able to quickly resolve them, so that way we're aware of those problems for next year. So it'll be a very big thing. So Beat Baseball, especially at that level, is going to be a huge thing for us for the next 2 years.
So when I was on your website, I was watching a video of Beat Baseball, and it looked like you had both individuals who are blind or have some level of vision loss playing, as well as sighted individuals that were wearing sleep shades.
Yep. So, yeah, our recreation tournaments are for those who are sighted or visually impaired. So we use that as, again, a community awareness thing. What better way to do that than to get the entire community to play? In National Beat Baseball Association, you have to be declared legally blind, which by their standards are 20/70 in your best eye. So to be a player on that league level, you have to be declared legally blind. But our fundraising tournaments and awareness pieces, anybody can come play of any ability and any eye vision level.
Okay, so those are really more promotional. But the archers, your actual team, everyone is legally blind on the team.
Yeah, minus the sighted volunteers, which I guess I should probably explain what Beat Baseball is in case some people don't know.
Maybe people might not know or might not know how it works. I guess it's implied that the ball beeps, but apart from that, people might not understand how it works.
So yeah, I can go through that really quick. I've gotten pretty used to it over the years. So Beat Baseball is an adapted form of baseball or softball. The three major differences are what I like to call the 3 Bs. So the blindfold is the first one. So even though it's played by those who are visually impaired, everybody wears a blindfold, since there are different varying degrees of visual impairment and blindness, to make an even playing field. So the blindfolds is the first B. The second one is the ball, which, like you mentioned, physically beeps. The ball is a 16-inch Chicago-style softball, so it's a little bit bigger than your normal softball, and it's kind of padded a little bit, but not foam. It's still plenty hard if you get hit with it. And inside there is a speaker mechanism, which causes the ball to beep. And then the third B are the bases. So the bases are actually 4 foot to 5 foot tall padded cylinders with a square base. They themselves have a speaker mechanism that makes a different tone than the ball to differentiate between the ball and the base. And the bases right now are operated by a mechanical switch. So there's not a first, second, and third base like regular baseball. There is only first base and third base. And then the way a typical at-bat works, the game is played 6-on-6, so 6 fielders, and then you have 6 batters, and you rotate like normal baseball. But a typical at-bat looks like the pitcher who's actually on the hitting offensive team. So the goal is to get the person to hit the ball. The pitcher is 20 feet away from the batter. The batter is blindfolded, and then the pitcher, who is, a sighted volunteer usually. There are some pitchers who are visually impaired but have good enough vision to pitch. The pitcher will give an audio cue to the batter. They'll say something along the lines of ready, set, ball, or here we go, set, ball, or here we go, set, pitch. Every pitcher is a little bit different. If the timing is right and the accuracy of the pitcher is right, the ball will be put into play. And then the batter will run to first or third base. You don't automatically run to first. So the bases are about 100 feet down the baselines, and then also 10 feet off those lines into foul territory, just to avoid collisions. So if that runner gets to whatever base is turned on before the 6 blindfolded fielders pick up the ball, then it's a run. If the fielders pick up the ball first before that batter touches the base, then it is an out. The fielders are aided by 1 or 2 sighted spotters. So in the National Beat Baseball Association, most teams use a numbering system, so they split the field up into zones. So the fielders are listening for the ball, but they also have some verbal cues to kind of know which way to go and what their zone of responsibilities are. And the beeping of the ball is mainly meant for the defenders. It's not meant for the batter. Just the way the brain and the human ear works, if a person were to try to hit that ball with beeping, by the time it would get up close to you enough to swing, you'd miss every time. So really hitting is between the batter and the pitcher, just being on the same page and the accuracy of the pitcher. So it sounds complicated, but anybody who listens to or watches a few innings of a game, they pick up on most of the rules pretty quickly.
So it's different from what we're used to in baseball or softball, that while the batter does run to a base, it's not always the same progression of bases, but also the defenders, once they're picking up that ball, they're not throwing it, say, to the first baseman to get someone out. It's just based on if they pick it up before the person gets to the base.
Correct. Yeah.
The
way the rules are right now, the ball has to be off the ground and in the control of the player. So what that means is you can't pick it up and then bobble it and drop it, or you can't hold it against your body or lay on top of it. A few other things. Beat baseball is played on all grass. We don't have dirt infields or anything like that, so it's primarily used on soccer fields, which is what most tournaments are held at. Very nice plush grass because there is lots of diving and sliding going on. The better the grass, the better. But the guys and girls that play this game, they're very, very tough because I've tried to play defense and play the way they do. The grounds are pretty hard, even with nice grass. But the past 2 years, the World Series has been in Norman, Oklahoma in the middle of July, and the year before that was Beaumont, Texas. Ooh. So anybody that's from the South or the West knows that grass doesn't grow very well in the summertime, and the ground can be almost like concrete. But everybody.
Yeah, I was going to say not a lot of green grass in either of those places in July.
Yeah. So the people that play this game are phenomenal athletes and deserve a lot of respect.
So you mentioned that the batter is not relying on the sound coming from the ball, which makes sense, just timing-wise. But how does a person who's just learning to play the game, how are they learning to bat? I mean, I understand there's this difference, again, between what we're used to with a pitcher who's trying to put a pitch, within the regulation area, but trying to make it so the batter can't hit it. Where in this case, you have a pitcher on the same team who's really wanting the batter to be able to hit it. So obviously that does help, but are there any techniques or things people use to help them hit a ball when they don't see it?
Yeah, and then so I started off as a coach when the Archers, when we formed in 2020. This year we've actually gotten a new coach, Orlando Gonzalez, to kind of lead the Archers, so I can take a more of a general manager role and an organizational logistics type role with the team. But I've been around enough players who either one knew what baseball was because they had vision at a younger age and lost it later in life, mm-hmm. and I've also had people who have been born blind completely with no vision and has no idea what a baseball swing. So I've had to teach and refine both, and it's different from person to person. The easiest thing I found is you give them a bat and tell them to swing and see what they do first, because whatever they do is probably going to be the most comfortable to them. And then you make minor tweaks. There's tactile tools that we use, hit trainers, sticks, swings, like some people use pieces of wood. You can use a broom handle to teach balance and things like that. But in beat baseball, since it is a game of speed, strength, but also accuracy, there are quite a few techniques people do to hit the ball and to do it effectively. So one of the more common ones is it's almost like a golf swing. So it makes sense from a strategic standpoint. So if you have a person and has more of a golf swing where it's coming from their back, almost swooping down and touching the ground and then following through, that's going to put the ball in the air if they make contact for a very long time. The longer the ball is in the air, it's harder for the defenses to track. So if you can get the ball to hang up for a few seconds, you can almost be down the baseline to touch the base before the defenders even have time to react to the ball. So you have a few swings like that. You have individuals who swing that used to play baseball and lost their vision and couldn't play anymore. So you have some traditional baseball swings. But it's doing what's comfortable to the player first, and then tweaking for success from that standpoint.
So if people want the batter, once they hit the ball, do they choose if they run to first or third, or is that something that they're told which one?
Yeah, the bases are operated by a switch. So the speakers that are in there have speaker cables coming off them, which usually comes to a switch, which is operated by a specialized umpire behind home plate. Every single pitch, whether it's a hit, a ball, or a strike, they turn a base. It's completely random, so it's up to the umpire that's flipping that switch. So every pitch is turned on immediately after the ball leaves the pitcher's hand, so the batter will be indicated on which one to go to, whether they hit it or not. I don't think I mentioned earlier, so in beat baseball, you're allowed 4 strikes instead of 3, and then you're allowed 1 passed ball or 1 ball. So primarily when that passed ball is used is either to get timing down if that's not right, or to say if they hit a long foul ball and they ran pretty much all the way down to the base and they have to come back and do it again, they usually take a pass ball to kind of catch their breath and get ready again.
And does the person who's run toward the base, do they stay on that base while the next person hits and then progress through bases like you would in a traditional baseball game? Or how does that work, or the scoring work?
Yeah, once they get to the base, whichever one gets engaged and they score a run, after they touch that base, the play is over. They go back to the dugout whether they were safe or out. So the runs are is if that offensive person gets to the base before the defense picks it up, then it's a run. If the defense picks it up, then it's an out. Obviously, you can strike out as well. But yeah, as soon as the call is done after that at bat, whether safe, out, or strike out, that batter's retired, they go to the bench and wait their next turn to either go on the field or hit again.
Okay, so if they make it to the base before the ball is in the control of a defender, then that's a run. They've scored a point.
Yes.
You don't have to go through multiple bases or anything.
No.
Okay.
And then there are
straightforward
some aspects to keep the game safe too. So that's one reason why the bases are 10 feet outside the foul or the baselines, because the ball has to be in fair territory for the defenders to pick it up, but also avoids collision. So say if a ball is hit down first base and first base was also triggered, you have the offensive person running there, and you also have the defenders right there trying to get it at the same time. So that's one way to avoid collisions. And then the other thing, which I failed to mention earlier, 40 feet down each baseline, there's an arc that connects that goes into the field of play. So that anything within that first 40 feet is considered foul too. So there's no bunting in beat baseball, or if you only hit it a few feet, that's considered foul. So you have to hit it past that 40 feet mark to be considered fair. Again, that's to avoid collisions between runners and batters and fielders.
Okay. So you can strike out. If you have so many fouls, is that an out as well?
No. So yeah, you can, just like regular baseball, you can foul off a dozen balls in a row and you still get to go until you get your 4th strike or put it in play.
Well, I'm fascinated, and I have not seen a game in person, but I had a general concept of it, but I really didn't understand exactly how it worked and the differences between traditional baseball and beat baseball. So that's really informative. You mentioned that there are teams. I know we have someone that has been on our programming advisory committee a year or so ago, but he actually Ethan flies out and plays on your team.
Yeah.
But how many teams are there around the country? I mean, are there teams in most states, or?
It's primarily concentrated in the Midwest and East Coast. Teams kind of come and go. It just depends on funding and then just interest in a certain area. We're one of few teams that are actually funded by an organization. So Mind's Eye funds the team. We get funding from other places to help fund the team. A lot of other teams are just a group of individuals in an area that want to play, and they fund everything themselves, from hotels and travel, all that stuff. They're kind of on their own, where players on our team are helped out a little bit by the funding that we get for hotel and travel and that type of stuff. But yeah, it's concentrated mainly in the Midwest, and then Texas. Texas themselves have 4 or 5 teams. There's 2 in Indianapolis. There's us here in St. Louis, Chicago, Atlanta, Boston, Philadelphia, I'm trying to think, like, besides Texas, the only ones west is the SGV Panthers, which is the Southern Golden Valley, which is around like the LA area. So there's not a whole lot of teams out west just because there's not a whole lot of interest. Ethan, like you mentioned, played for a team, the Colorado Storm, which I think they disbanded in 2018. We actually have 3 of those players. So Ethan is a unique story. He grew up in Missouri when he came over from Ethiopia and then moved out to Denver. Demetrius Moro, who played on that Colorado Storm team as well, he's from St. Louis. He now lives in Minnesota. He moved there for work and family life. And then Richie Crussell, who is from St. Louis, played with Colorado Storm, and then he played with Indianapolis, and now he plays with us since we have a hometown team again. So most of our players either came from St. Louis, grew up in St. Louis, or have some sort of connection. We do have one player right now who lives in Indianapolis that plays with us, but right now we have 12 people on our team that are visually impaired. 9 of them live here in St. Louis. But every other team either is localized to a certain area. There's some teams that collect 1 or 2 individuals from different parts of the country just to form a team, because there are some players that live in communities where they don't have enough for a full team, so they go play with another team to get that experience. But this past year we had 19 teams compete at the World Series, but there were 32 teams that are registered. So some of those teams that didn't come didn't have either the amount of players, the amount of funding, the amount of volunteers to compete on a World Series level, or they could be too early on in their development to think that they could compete with the rest of those teams, so they're taking developmental time. But yeah, in 2024, our goal is to have 24 teams. Again, we can only encourage teams to apply, but the league has done a good job over the past few years kind of growing the game and having resources available for those looking to start their own team.
So that would be a good place to go, the website for the National Beat Baseball Association, if somebody was interested in starting a team in their location. Yep,
nbba.org is their website. The main things you need is obviously you'll need at least 6 visually impaired players, at least 2 sighted volunteers. Your pitcher, your catcher are usually sighted. You can also have up to 2 sighted spotters. They can be your same pitcher and catcher if you're short on volunteers. And then equipment is the other thing. So, and that's one of the hard things about the current state of the game is as fast as it's growing, there aren't any major manufacturers of equipment. Legacy Pioneers in Colorado are pretty much the only organization that makes Beat Baseballs right now. There's another person in Texas that makes them. But Beat Baseballs, you can't just go to Amazon and order however many you need. They're all handmade. They're all custom made. They're expensive. Oh, wow. They cost about $35 a piece, and they can break with a single hit. It's electronic components getting hit with metal bats by guys who are 6'4" and muscly and 250 pounds, hitting it with a metal bat. So they do break quite often. Every year at the World Series, I think the goal is to have 220 on hand, and they go through almost every single one of them.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, that is a real cost then to consider.
Yeah,
if you go through them that quickly, potentially.
Yeah. So, and that's usually the biggest barrier, because even if a team were to buy, say, 10 balls, that's around $350. Those 10 balls may only last you a month, depending on how much you practice. Whenever we do batting practice, we use what's called dead balls. They're just balls that no longer work because the speaker broke in them. Again, like I mentioned earlier, since hitting's all about timing between the batter and the pitcher, it doesn't really matter if the ball's beeping or not for that contact and connection to be made. So you can be resourceful that way. Bases are the other thing that's hard to come by. Colorado, the Pioneers of Colorado were the only one making bases for a while. Other people have just taken to being home engineers. Like at Mind's Eye, we make our own bases. So we were able to find components to make them ourselves. Some of them widely available, some of them weren't. And then there's a custom foam place in St. Louis that we had fabricate the foam for us. And then one of our old administrative assistants at Mind's Eye, she was a fantastic seamstress, so she actually made the coverings that go over the bases and gave us the blueprints when she retired. So if we ever need to make them again, we can hopefully find somebody to make them for us. But we have 8 sets of bases, which is probably, besides the NBBA, probably the most in the entire country. Most teams are lucky if they have 1 set of bases. There's a few teams that have a few sets, but I shouldn't say the problem facing Beat Baseball is the equipment. Beat Baseball was started by Southwestern Bell employees in Colorado. At least the equipment was. So a lot of these are made with older telephone parts and speaker parts. So it's not stuff that's widely available anymore. So parts aren't being currently manufactured. We're just using back stock or old stock of things. So there's going to be a point to where equipment's going to have to adapt and become more widely available. And we're on the horizon of some of those things. With the game growing, there's more people interested in helping grow the equipment. So that's universities, that's researchers, that's just individuals who like to tinker with electronics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like there's an opportunity there to develop new types of equipment or new electronic parts, at least, of the equipment.
Yeah, and again, with the adaptation of the game, equipment will need to be made. Not saying that it's not made at a higher quality, but something to make the equipment last a little bit longer, since they are an expensive component of the game. Either getting things cheaper or getting them more durable is probably a decent goal to have going forward. But any help and expertise in that area is definitely wanted.
If a piece of equipment, a ball or a base, it dies, apart from just being able, like you said, to use the balls for batting practice, are they able to be repaired, or the electronics replaced in them at all, or is it just not worth the cost of doing that?
It's more than likely not worth the cost. If which I don't know if the people in Colorado that the Pioneers, I know bases that don't do repairs on or anything like that. I don't know if the shell is still good on a ball, if they're able to take that apart and put a new electronic component in it. It's probably not worth the time and cost of shipping things back and forth. It is to just purchase a new one. Oh, and then the balls, so they are rechargeable though. So they have a rechargeable battery in them. So if the battery does die and no longer makes a sound, they make chargers to recharge them. So that's one way to keep them going, so they don't just run out of battery life eventually. But they'll break before they won't be able to hold a charge anymore.
Right. I know it's an issue that's come up here with hockey pucks. The tech company we use, their owner, he's really into hockey and working with a kid's team and trying to develop hockey pucks that will withstand, like you said, the beating that they get and still be able to make the sounds and all of that. So I think that's something common throughout, some of these sports where you have something that needs to be able to withstand impact, but you're trying to have it make a sound. Yeah,
most adaptive sports, equipment issues are usually a pretty big thing. I mean, goal ball those things are actually made pretty hardy, so those tend to last a while. They have mechanical components, so like a bell's usually not going to stop ringing until it physically breaks or splits open, but that doesn't happen too often. But yeah, in St. Louis, there's another group that runs the St. Louis Blues Blind Hockey Club, and they partnered with St. Louis University engineering students to see if they could make a beeping puck. The pucks now themselves are ball bearings inside of a steel housing. I believe they're about 3 inches thick, made out of steel, and the ball bearings are inside there. So again, probably expensive to make, and then they get dented. So the more it gets dented, the more unpuck-like it becomes. But I know they experimented with some 3D printing and digital sounds, which some guys liked it, some of the players didn't. The drawback to beeping inside of an enclosed arena like that, it could be disorienting to those trying to get it, because the sound's kind of bouncing off the ice, the walls, the enclosed ceilings, that type of stuff. So it's adaptive sports are unique to where you have to be able to pivot, but also be forward thinking enough to see how equipment's going to react with any given game. That's probably any sport, but adaptive sports, mainly since you're relying on auditory things, sometimes you don't think of how the environment that's played in affects how a piece of equipment's going to work.
Am I correct? Are you starting adaptive soccer now as well?
Yeah, so in fall of last year, 2022, with the success of the Archers and our Beat Baseball program, we knew there was a need for other adaptive sports in our community. So we pivoted from just doing the Gateway Archers and the Beat Ball program, and now it's under Mind's Eye Adaptive Athletics. So the adaptive athletics, as a starting point, we wanted to make sure team sports was a big thing about it. After a person with a visual impairment either graduates school or loses their vision, opportunities for team sports pretty much plummets. There usually aren't that many team activities for a person with visual impairments. It's all individualized sports or individual competition. So we knew goalball being the biggest sport for those with a visual impairment. We started our goalball team, Gateway Goalball. We'll actually be competing in our first national tournament later this September. And then blind soccer is another thing that's growing within the U.S. As a Paralympic sport. It's very, very, very grassroots right now, so much so that the U.S. Paralympic team only formed this past winter and won't be competing nationally at the Paralympics until 2028 when it's in L.A. So soccer is probably going to take a while to get there. There's a few teams sprinkled throughout the U.S. right now. Most of those players are on the Paralympic team, which is how they kind of got started. But yeah, even if I were to have a blind soccer team right now, there's only 2 or 3 teams that I could probably play against in the entire country. So, but we wanted to get in on the ground floor here in St. Louis. We just got our first MLS team, the St. Louis City. So they've been great partners with us to start. And then starting in the spring and next year, we'll ramp up our blind soccer initiative a little bit more, do a lot more demonstrations, get some more interest, hopefully get some vision impaired players and volunteers that they want to join that initiative and spring that forward. So this past year was goalball. We wanted to concentrate on getting that off the ground. I'm not saying goalball is easy to get started, but after running the Archers, which takes about 25 to 30 people to run that effectively, goalball, you only need 3 players. I mean, we can have up to 6, but partnering with Missouri School for the Blind, which is a sport that they play there during their season. So there's plenty of younger talent that are going to want to play, I assume, after they graduate from that school. But then having more blind soccer demonstrations, just exposure for that, is something that we want to do. So goalball we concentrated on last year. That's on good footing now. And then soccer is the next initiative we want to tackle.
Right. Well, you've been a wealth of information, Mike, especially with all the details of the game of Beat Baseball. So I appreciate you joining us today, and hopefully there will be some listeners out there that will get excited about some of these adaptive sports and may be able to get some interest going, get some support going in their own area to be able to, even just at a recreational level, to enjoy the game, even if they're not competing in a World Series, just to have fun. Yeah.
And then I encourage anybody who wants to learn more about Beat Baseball, they can go to our website, mindseyeradio.org. They can go to the National Beat Baseball Association's website, nbba.org. And their social media platforms and ours, youtube.com, ours is Gateway Archers, or Mind's Eye Adaptive Athletics. And then the NBBA is on there. If anybody wants to listen to and or watch one of those games, those are good resources. The games typically aren't streamed in a professional manner most of the time. Again, funding-wise, it's usually a volunteer from a team with a smartphone. But the NBBA does have some decent multi-camera games with professional commentary if anybody's interested or learning more, seeing or listening of how a game plays out in real time. The NBBA.org's YouTube page is a good place to go.
Right. And I didn't even ask you this question. Are there 9 innings? How is the game's ending determined?
6 innings.
Okay.
So it's much shorter, but most games last, the average game is probably about 2.5 hours long. So If we were to go to 9 innings, you'd be getting done to 4 hours,
really long.
4-hour territory. Yeah. So just like regular baseball, they're trying to find ways to shorten the game. Just because over at the World Series, we played 9 games. Some teams played 10 games, so that's condensed into 4 or 5 days. So it does take a toll on the body. So trying to shorten the game is probably something that they'll look into in the next few years.
Right. Well, we may be coming back to you later on in a few months, in a year, and find out the progress not only of Beat Baseball, but soccer and goalball as well.
Yeah, please do. I'm always open to spread information about our athletics. So I appreciate the time.
Thank you. And thanks for all of you for listening to our program today. As Mike said, you can go to the Mind's Eye website or the National Beat Ball Association's website to get more information. You're always welcome to come to our website, aincolorado.org, to learn more about our services and programming as well, or to explore our other original podcasts, Aftersight, Blindsight, and the newest one, and very popular, Blind Level Tech. So we hope you'll join us again. We'll be starting a new month, and we'll be starting a kind of a broad topic of lifestyle. So I think that's going to incorporate several things. For those of you who remember lifestyle sections of newspapers and all the variety that is in that lifestyle section, I think we'll have a variety of topics as we to explore as we go through the month. So we hope you'll join us then, and that this program will help you navigate your life with vision loss.